Hey there, fellow streakers. We're back with you, and we are continuing a conversation that we started on the last podcast because it just has so much momentum right now in our minds and what it is that we're doing with streaking in regards to laughably simple, not easy, or laughably simple, not automatic. We had that debate, and if you listen to the last podcast, you know, Jamie and I talked a little bit about what that debate was, but we thought we just want to continue that conversation because there were a couple of other points that came about with it. And I know I just got jumped right in here,
Jamie.
Jumped
right in.
But
welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all things streaking, but not that kind of streaking.
This is the laughably simple, conscious, consistent things that you do in your life.
Absolutely. And the reason why you do them is because of who you want to be. Yep. As an individual. So it's not the streaking where you're running across the football field naked or being indecent. We don't do that. All clothes required. However, we have talked about, and Talon has talked about this, and actually Ace wants this as well as a streaking line of clothes.
I know. We need some.
I think some merch.
Yes,
we need to get some merch out there. It's streaking line of clothes. If you have some thoughts on what that merch might look like, we'd love to see it. Give us an email at Jeffrey, Jeffrey, at streakingmastery.com or
Jamie at JAMI@streakingmastery.com. We usually say that at the end, so now I'm waiting for the music to cue. But no, not this time. We're just beginning.
As we continue this conversation, before we get there, I want to highlight a really cool streak. It hit 2,000 days just a couple of days ago. It's one of our fellow streakers out there, and this is underneath the this is actually one of their streaks. This is Katie and team. She shared this streak with me. Read or listen to at least one verse of scripture daily as a family. 2,000 consecutive days, approaching the Cal Ripken Jr. Hall of Fame of streaks.
I'm so glad that you brought this one up because this is a really good way to start talking about what I wanted to talk about.
Isn't it? Really? How come?
Yeah. Well, because, so first of all, 2,000 days.
Congratulations, Katie.
Congratulations. That's
Danny
awesome.
And team. Wow. Fantastic.
And I love that the way they've made that laughably simple is that it doesn't have to be the entire family. It can be, if some of their kids are there or just, it has to be at least one child there, I think is what they've got.
Is that what they have? Is that's part of what makes it the family streak?
Is it's
one person in the family reads scripture with one other person in the family, and that then counts.
And they try to do it as a whole family, but making it
Remember, it's a
simple.
place to start. It's not the place to end. However, just look at that. I mean, what kind of confidence does that bring in? What kind of awesomeness does that feel? It's like, yes, we have done this as a family. Rock on.
And so I love that because that is awesome and amazing. But it also brings in what we wanted to talk about a little bit today is it can also be intimidating, extremely intimidating to people who are just starting, who are looking at this and looking at it and thinking 2,000 days. So they're like, first of all, they're inspired. You're inspired by this and you're like, wow, I'm going to do that.
That's awesome.
And they're saying this is laughably simple and I'm going to set up a laughably simple streak and we're going to do this as a family. And you get going on it and you make it 5 days and then you miss it and you get a little discouraged. You're like, but that's okay. I missed one day. We're going to start again. And so you start again and you make it a little while and then you miss it. Because honestly, this is a little bit sometimes what happens when you're starting a new streak, at least from my own experience. In fact, I have one streak. I haven't kept track of how many times I've had to restart it because it's a lot. I've had to restart that streak a lot.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting. And I was talking specifically to Katie about this the other day, and this is what really brought up our debate when we were talking about laughably simple doesn't mean easy. And there's two parts that I want to talk about this today, and I'm going to say them here so that I don't forget them.
Yep. Because the debate continues on. So go ahead and say the two.
So the first one was exactly this example: is that people look at sometimes these longer streaks. And they are just starting. They haven't been streaking before. They're just starting. And to be truthful, you have to, what I've seen works is you start with one streak and you do it for 100 days. That is over 3 months of only doing one streak that's laughably simple before you feel like you can set another streak. That takes a lot of patience. Would you agree?
I do. Totally, 100%. I'm right there with you.
Especially when you're excited and
Right.
and this is what happens to us. We talked one time about New Year's resolutions and how much we, that first time of the year and you're like, I am going to totally remake myself. And you set 5, 6, 7 New Year's resolutions.
It was 14.
14.
Yeah, I had 14.
To cover all the different areas
had
of
to cover
life.
it all. Cover it all. Do it all.
I'm
gonna remake myself this year.
Which is really exciting when we start. Like the idea that you're like, I'm gonna do this. I'm motivated. I can make this happen. And then you get a little bit into it and you're like, that did not work at all. I'm quitting all of them. So to have a streak where you're gonna contain yourself to one for 100 days before you start a second one is a challenge.
Okay.
It's being patient.
Right.
So that was the first thing that we wanted to talk about is that this idea that starting to streak is not easy because of the level of effort it takes to add consistency and intentionality in that thing in your life and to be patient. So that was the first part.
That's the first part.
The second part, and this was the debate that happened
Right.
in our meeting.
I was going on the other side of this.
One person brought up and said, okay.
This is Talon. Talon brought this up.
He said, I hesitate if we say that it's not easy because I'm looking at the activity that I'm doing and I'm thinking, this is really easy. And if you're telling me it's not easy, then I need to step it up. I need to go higher. I need to make it harder because I'm looking at this going, yeah, this is easy. In fact, it's been so easy. I've been like, is this even making a difference? So there's these two aspects of the way that you view streaking. The one, when you're starting and maybe you don't get it going right away and you're like, this isn't easy like they said it was. Or the opposite, where you get it going and you're doing it and it's laughably simple and you're thinking, yeah, this is easy. And if you're telling me it's not easy, then both ways you can look at it and say, I'm not doing it right.
I look at it as there's two things here. There's ego. Ego says I need to do things harder and more difficult and for it to count. That's the one part of it, is it's ego. That's the one side. And I think the other side of it is what you're saying, which is the effort part is I can get down on myself because I have this laughably simple thing that I can't even do day
even
after day.
I'm not doing.
Even that I can't even do that day after day after day.
Exactly.
And that's honestly where the effort comes in. And I think that is one of the reasons why we go back to this whole idea of the false expectation that habits set up. Mm-hmm. Because the false expectation is that as soon as I've done it long enough, it does become automatic. And then when I don't do it, then it's me that has the problem.
Right.
When in actuality, consistency across the board for human beings, it's just difficult for us. Mm-hmm. That's all there is to it. It's not in our natural tendencies to have something that is going to be good in our lives and valuable be automatic. So as I look at both sides of it, is it easy to keep it consistent? Absolutely not.
No.
That's what you're saying.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
That is even something laughably simple. It's not easy because of the craziness of life that goes on. I love the way that you say it sometimes when you're like, we live life.
Right.
And you can't always be at your highest performance level. You can't always be there. And that means also inconsistency.
Right.
However, what we do is set something laughably simple so that when we're in the chaos and the storms of life, I can still do that laughably simple thing in order to keep the consistency alive. But to keep the consistency alive, I need to recognize that that's going to require some work, some intentionality, some deliberateness. Is that right?
Yes. Some
purposeful action on my part to become who I want to be. And that's what I love about it, is it's doable, though. That's the thing. I was talking to someone the other day, Kevin. We were talking about streaking, and he said this. He said, the thing I love about your book is what you do in the book is you can read it and immediately apply it. In other words, walk away with something. Mm-hmm. You can walk away and know, you know what? I have something that I can do here. And he said, it's easy to read and to apply. Now to be consistent with it, that's where the work comes in. But I don't want people to get scared of work. I guess that's where I kind of have a little bit of, a rub on this as far as streaking, simple, not easy, is yeah, everything worth doing, anything is work. But the question is where's the work?
Right.
The work is in the consistency. That's where the work is.
And so just kind of
Yeah, go.
putting a whole picture around this, and because of a couple experiences we've had in the last couple weeks about discussing this. The one, there's a group of people that we say it's laughably simple. They get started. It's not as simple as what they thought because of the effort it takes to be consistent. And they're like, okay, this doesn't work, which is not true.
So they dismiss it.
So they dismiss it. Then you've got the other group of people that are working really hard to dismiss this disbelief that something laughably simple is going to make a difference. And they're coming at it from what you're saying. They're like, this isn't hard enough. This is not, I mean, if I'm not going 110, why even go? Do you know what I mean? There's those personalities. And we had a discussion with someone that was that way just a couple weeks ago. And so the thing just to wrap this up into one big, beautifully package that's all wrapped nice with a pretty bow on it, is that, one, the consistency is hard. It's going to take effort and work to be consistent. That's good. We want it to be, we want to have to work at things. But also recognizing that those people that want to go 110 miles per hour all the time, it's not possible to be at the top of your game in every aspect of your life 24/7. It's just not. And so that's what streaking is. It answers both of those questions in my mind. It covers both sections of the pendulum. I feel like life is this big pendulum where you're always on one end or the other. And then just if you don't like where you are, wait for a minute, it'll swing back the other direction and you'll be on the total opposite end of where you were
exactly
just yesterday. And that's what I feel like this is these two opposite ends of this debate where the one is, the one person is saying, you said this was laughably simple and I'm having a hard time. This takes more effort than I thought. And I'm like, you're right. It takes effort to be consistent. Versus the pendulum on the other side where this person is like, this is so laughably simple. I'm embarrassed to even say that I'm doing it because this takes hardly any effort. I want to do a lot more. I want to go harder, faster, quicker. Come on, let's do this. That answers that question too of that person where you're like, you can go harder, faster for a while, but you can't live at that level of top performance in every area of your life all the time.
But what if I want to?
Well, we all want to. I mean, we all want to. And then something happens where life happens or you get tired or, something always happens. Something gets in the way. So what streaking does in my mind is it gives you that, I love what you said, Kevin said, it gives you that place to start. You walk away and you're like, okay, I can start right now doing this laughably simple thing. And what we wanted to communicate is that the laughably simple, the activity is laughably simple, but the effort that it takes to be consistent is real effort. And these people that want to go 110 miles per hour, you're going to recognize that when I'm going 110 miles per hour in this one aspect of my life, like I'm knocking it out of the park, streaking allows you to not ignore everything else.
It's the floor. That's one of the things I look at.
You still have these other aspects of your life that you're maintaining. You're still standing on the floor, even though this one particular area that you're reaching and going super fast and super hard, you can do that. But you don't have to ignore everything else in your life to do that. These other things are still happening because you're doing a laughably simple activity around those things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
totally makes sense? I'm right there.
I'm my brain, and I'm hoping that I've communicated.
I think you've done a beautiful job of putting it in a nice package and wrapping that package and putting a nice little bow on it, because that pendulum with the floor, I think you can stretch, you can reach, you can move, you can grow because you have a floor on which you can stand.
Right.
And when the pendulum of life is swinging both ways, whatever way it is, I do, because there are times where I do have additional capacity to be able to do and move different things. But and when I look at that, I don't have to start from scratch when I really want to get going on something. For example, you and I, over Thanksgiving, we wanted to run the half marathon. Well, we'd been running or walking at least a mile for so long that caused us no
We didn't have to start
anxiety
clear back
because we didn't start back
not
from
having
zero.
run forever.
Right.
To be like,
We were on the floor of running or walking at least a mile, and then we upped our training so that we could, perform at the half marathon. But honestly, if we didn't worry about necessarily the performance, the time, we could have walk through the whole thing and it wouldn't have affected us the whole day. But that's because we had a solid floor on which we were standing. And I think that's the case. We were talking last time about our financial lives. And we're talking about this right now, about how we can set a goal to be able to get a certain amount of savings in order to get a certain house that we want to get sometimes. And we don't have to worry about.
We don't have to go back 3 years and be like, I don't even know where we are. How do we even start? There's that level of being overwhelmed that's completely not there because we've been keeping track of that single transaction every day.
At least one transaction filed every single day.
This nice solid floor that we've been standing on now allows us the ability to reach for something higher, something more that we want at this time in our life. And that was the thing when we were talking to the individual that was struggling with the Laughably Simple, saying, I want to go harder and faster. This is really hard for me, what you're talking about. I feel like you're saying a lower limit.
Yeah.
And I love this idea that we're like, look, we're not saying that this is all you do. You can totally reach. That's great. That's what the floor is there for, is so that you can reach. Mm-hmm. But it's recognizing that when you're reaching for one or two things in your life, there's still other things in your life that are important. Those aren't the only two things in life that you're going to be doing. And streaking helps you to maintain those things while you're reaching.
Okay, and I'm going to give another little view of this. It also allows you to maintain a level of excellence, because what I'm saying is I'm not going to go beneath that floor.
Yes.
This is the floor on which I'm going to stand, and I'm not going to go beneath it. And so the work, the energy, the effort of consistency keeps me at the level of excellence that I want to be. Now, when I say level of excellence, sometimes you can think, well, that's way out there. Excellence is huge. No, what I'm talking about is the excellence that comes in the consistency of no matter what, every single day, I'm going to, and I could just look at a few of my streaks here and I'll just tell you, as a let's go lead, speak, teach, write, no matter what, every single day, I'm going to review at least one card for development, a skill or a principle. I'm going to review it one time every day. I'm going to read at least one paragraph in a nonfiction book. I'm going to review at least one vocabulary word daily. No matter what, I'm going to do those things. Now, you may look at it and say, well, how's that going to help at all? I mean, that's not really going to do anything. When in actuality, what it does is give me the floor on which to stand in order to reach for a different goal.
And I think right now our life is a perfect example of where that's coming in. So I'm going to take your life right now where you're like, look at a development card or read a paragraph out of a nonfiction book. Currently in your life right now, you have two of the biggest accounts that I've seen you have in your career. Very large accounts that are requiring a lot of
brain power, energy, and time.
And energy. We are also moving. We are literally in the midst of packing. It's kind of funny. We are packing everything around you right now because we're saving your office for the end.
It's so fun. So while I'm sitting on client meetings in my office, I hear the wrapping of furniture and the wrapping of the great big saran wrap. You're wrapping everything with saran wrap, and there's tape across boxes and all kinds of chaos. And it's like I'm in this, it's not a construction zone, it's a moving
kind of
zone.
Like it, though.
I know. And I'm working the mute button, back and forth. It's really actually a lot of fun as I look at it, because I'm on, like, for example, yesterday I was on with all parts of the globe. I mean, with this very large account that I'm working with.
This large account with these people that are working from, I mean, you're not talking companies, you're talking countries.
Yes.
How are we going to help this country? How about what are we going to do with this country? It was amazing. So these large accounts, this moving and this turning upside down of our life, also still managing and doing what we're doing with streaking. And amidst all of that, you're still practicing or studying one development card a day.
Yes.
You're still
That's my floor. I will not go beneath that.
And that's what I'm talking about when we talk about the floor, is that there's areas in your life right now that you are going 110 miles per hour, maybe 150 miles per hour.
Thank you, hon. Thanks.
Like, you are cruising.
Yesterday, the reason she's saying that is yesterday after I got done with with work, I went and I sat on the couch and I didn't move the rest of the night. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, they say that your brain expends a lot of calories and that it's a lot of hard work. And so I was like, well, where's my 6-pack of abs and my huge chest because my brain is working so hard?
Wouldn't that be great?
But no, that doesn't get benefit from it.
But those times where you have put so much into one aspect of your life that you're like, I'm a puddle of goo. I don't have much left to offer after that day. That's where the floor of streaking comes in, where these other things that are important to you aren't ignored. You're able to do them. You keep them going so that then down the road in a couple months where maybe there is something there like, I want to read this book. And you're going to have an hour or 2 hours, or maybe when we go on vacation and you've got time to just sit and read this book you've wanted to, you can put more time and energy into that book. But it's not like you haven't read for months. It's not like you haven't picked up a book and looked at something because you've been so busy doing these other things with work.
So speaking of that, the book I'm reading right now is Apollo 13. Their whole world went into full chaos.
Full chaos. Houston, we've got a problem.
Yeah, isn't that apropos for where our life is at right now? We're flipping all the switches. All the master alarms are going off. There's pods in the driveway. Cars are moving in and out. The kids are all over the place. What are we going to do?
Houston, we've got a problem.
And I still do all the streaks. I mean, all the streaks in each area of my life, and so do you. I mean, you've got the same amount of chaos that's going on. I appreciate you paying attention to what I have, but you have the same amount of chaos.
I know,
and so brings us back to all the way around streaking. I still go with it's simple but not automatic, and it's simple. The activity is simple.
Laughably simple.
But I would say the consistency requires effort.
Yeah.
And it takes conscious effort, which will lead us into our next conversation of no record, no streak.
And because that's a huge part of where the effort comes in, which is kind of a funny thing that the effort, and it takes a little bit of tweaking to recognize the effort isn't in the activity you're doing. The effort comes in keeping track of it. It's amazing to me that that's effort. So it's going to be fun to talk about that. But that's the message I want to leave with everybody today, is that streaking is laughably simple and it requires effort. A significant amount of effort.
Next time, we're going to be talking about what that effort is in law number 2, which is no record, no streak. And we'll get back to basics on that one. So we've spent 3 podcasts. This is I think how significant it is.
Laughably simple.
Yeah, because it is so absolutely important to streaking is to make it laughably simple. Set up your floor so when the pendulum of life swings, you've got a floor on which to stand, and that floor is your minimum excellence, if you will.
Yes.
And you're going to stand on that
maintainable excellence.
Maintainable excellence. Ooh, I like that.
Maintainable excellence.
All right. Until we talk next time. Well, before I say that, give us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Jeffrey, Jefffery, at streakingmastery.com, or
Jamie, Jami, at streakingmastery.com, or follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest. Please review the book. Reviews are awesome, and anything you have to say about the book, we love.
And you can follow us on our website, and we'll post blogs there as well at streakingmastery.com. Until we talk next time.
Keep streaking.
It's too simple not to